Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to Revelations with Rowena. Again, I'm telling you, we're working on a beautiful intro clip by a friend, so you'll get to hear that with some nice visuals. But in the meantime, you get to see my face. Today, I am super excited to have an amazing guest to talk about speaking and stages. That's the reason why I started this live every week is to get more experience, especially in COVID times,
Oh, yeah.
speaking virtually. Yes. Kimberly Crowe, she is the creator of Entrepreneurs Rocket Fuel and the co creator of the Speakers Playhouse, which is how I got to meet Kimberly and learn about all the awesome, amazing things she's doing and helping folks like us who are out there wanting to get their names out there, their message out there, and connect with folks all over. So, welcome, Kimberly. So nice to have you.
So excited to be here with you, Rowena. And I am really, really pleased to be with your audience. I know you always attract the most amazing people, but I just want to commend you for creating a stage to be able to create. That's one of the things. If you can't find your own, if nobody will put you on a stage, just create one of your own. And you can create a podcast, radio show, TV show, web summit, webinar, Facebook Live, Clubhouse stage, YouTube Live. I think LinkedIn Live does it now. There's a million ways to get out there and get seen and heard in a bigger way as a speaker, and to be able to put other people on the stage as a guest speaker, that is really powerful. So I congratulate you for taking the leap.
Well, thank you. And I mean, speaking of taking the leap, you have such a diverse array of experiences, especially when it comes to speaking and engaging with audiences. Can you tell us a little bit about your history and what brought you here and creating these amazing opportunities for folks like us?
Sure. So I'm very passionate about getting speakers on stage, right? Speakers need to speak, primarily entrepreneurs. This is a great way to be able to connect with your audience without doing Facebook ads, right? Like paying for paid traffic. And they call it cold traffic for a reason. The cold traffic means they don't know who you are. They don't know your warm self. They don't know your gorgeous smile. They don't know how cute you are when you turn your head to the side. That's totally adorable. Look how awesome you are. But they don't know who you are. They're just looking at the stuff you have to offer, not who you are in the world. And when you show up live on an event like this and you are able to give your personality out there and get out there and be seen and heard, then people can connect with you, not just your stuff. And that really makes the big difference. And when you're starting out as an entrepreneur and you're just trying to get a foothold, a lot of people also rely on referrals. Now, referrals are a great business opportunity, right? People are referring you in because they know you and they liked you and they're referring you business, but you're really not making that global impact that you could make if you get on a virtual stage, right? A virtual stage is an opportunity to get out there in front of, the world and anybody with an internet connection and be able to really make that impact that you were brought here on this planet to make.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I feel like virtual stages, of course, this past year and a half now with COVID has forced the issue, right? And that speakers who are used to traveling all over to be in person have had to make a pivot based off of that shift, right? And how that has expanded things for folks. What are some tips or maybe even some trends when it comes to speaking on a virtual stage?
So virtual stages are really have pluses and minuses, right? You aren't physically there with the audience, so you can't see them nodding along with you if you're on a podcast, right? You can't really get any feedback live from them if you're on a recorded one. If you are on a live one and somebody puts notes in the chat and you can see them like Facebook Live, you can do that. I was just on a Facebook Live before this show, and you can actually see their comments and how many people are watching, and if they throw something in there like, "Oh, that was a really good tip for podcasters," you're like, "Ah, I didn't even think about that. The great point, great tip for podcasters." Okay, well, yeah. And then you can interact with them and you can really grow and touch the audience that way. But it's not the same thing as being in person with them, because after you get off stage, you're not like walking around the audience. You don't run into them at the water cooler or in the back table or, just standing outside of the pavilion, right? And you don't have that bonding time. So it can be, there's pluses and minuses. On the other hand, really everybody on the planet figured out what Zoom was not everybody on the planet, pretty much everybody on the planet, like really close to everybody on the planet, because even our kids are using Zoom to be able to get into their classrooms. Our parents are using Zoom to see their grandkids and also to talk to like friends across the country or whatever. I know that when Facebook came along, people were like, oh, I connected with so-and-so that I haven't seen since high school. But Zoom, like they're connecting, you know, and this is a really great way for them to be able to see you and interact with you. I know that when you talk about like communication, 7% is the words, and the rest of it is in intonation and body language, right? When you have a Zoom opportunity, you have that opportunity to get that body language and that intonation, and people can see who you really are, right? So it can be very powerful. But today we're actually going to talk about 4 types of stages that you can get on. So all of the things that we've talked about so far are really medium, right? That ways to get on stage and be seen and heard. But there's actually 4 types of stages within those within that media. I think it's mediums. I think it's media. That I don't know whichever one it is. Somebody can correct me in the chat. It's totally fine. It's gonna be awesome. But that we're going to talk about that you can get on any of those stages and really hit any of the 4 types of stages.
Well, that's great. I definitely can't wait to hear about those 4 types of stages. And just talking about the Zoom, I know we're probably zoomed out at this point, but case in point, my 15-month-old, you know, we do FaceTime Zoom with my mom. And when my mom has come to visit in person, the very few times that she has during COVID, my daughter doesn't even really, you know, it's a different type of interaction. She's used to seeing grandma on the screen versus in person. So that's very
15 months is tough right now because you had your little one when they were just we were just COVIDing, right? Like, well, all kidding aside, that must have been really difficult labor and delivery. But that said, that, you know, like having that distancing from grandparents, you know, like don't hug grandma, you might give her COVID is a terrible thing that we tell our kids, right?
Yeah.
So,
for sure. I mean, my husband and I are both extroverted. We also love to talk and speak and engage. So it's been really difficult, you know, as new parents to not be able to share our daughter. And so we're excited now that we're vaccinated and things are opening up that we can do that.
Yep. I just went to lunch the other day and nobody was wearing a mask, not even the people like serving the food. And I was like, oh, we might be getting back to normal. I mean, not for me. I know other people are like, oh, that's dangerous. And I get that. I'm not on either side. I'm just saying for me, I'm very happy that things
are transition regardless.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's going to be very interesting. I know the few times I've been out in the past couple weeks, it's been very strange.
Yeah.
A new transition. But anyway, 4 stages. Let's go with number 1.
All right.
1. I don't know if they're in rank order.
They're not necessarily in order, but we're going to talk about, make sure that you get a feel for each kind of one and really how to maximize the value out of each one. So stage number 1 is a speak to sell stage. Now, speak to sell is where you are actually getting on to promote a product or service that you are eventually going to sell to the audience. Now, oftentimes you can just make an offer right there on a speak to sell stage, but even stages where you're not making an offer right then, if your intention is that eventually you're going to nurture them into a sale down the road, that is also a speak to sell stage. So let's say I get on a podcast and I say, hey, I'd love you to grab my downloadable. You can find it at www.entrepreneursrocketfuel.com/10 mistakes. And you'll be able to get my downloadable, right? That's something easy for them to remember, right? That you can say out loud and it doesn't have like XYQ bit.ly link, you know, like you have to be able to say it correctly, right? And then they can grab that and then nurture them down the road into something that you're going to sell them, but not necessarily sell them right then and there. You're just having a call to action, which is eventually going to nurture them into a sale. And it's for the purposes of selling your program and driving revenue. So you want to position yourself as well as possible as an authority, as an expert, and be able to share with them the value of the program or the talk that you're giving, so that people can see you as, oh, she's got knowledge on that particular area. I want to know more. I want to take the next logical step with her. Now, that may be visit my website. That may be grab my downloadable. That may be text me. That may be let's set up a free consultation. It may be a variety of different things. In fact, there's the text thing. It works really well on podcasts, as a matter of fact. But if it's like text happiness to 676767, you can get my downloadable. That's not a real thing, but like if that was a thing, that'd be awesome, right? So that works really well on podcasts. And there's different things that work on different medium. You've got to be aware of what your audience is going to be able to see. Sometimes people will say, oh, we'll put that link in the show notes. But how many times have you gone to a podcast show notes to grab that link? Like,
right. Good point.
If they didn't say something that I can remember by the time I get to my destination, I'm probably not going to the show notes, right? So just be careful with that. Make sure that you have something that you can give in order to maximize those stages. Now, that may be a podcast. It may be a radio show. And the difference between podcasts and radio shows is one is live and one is recorded, generally speaking. And one is on a show with other stuff on it, and then podcasts are all one, right? Like one person. Okay. Or Web Summit. Those are really great opportunities to do speak to sell. There's many different opportunities to do those.
Well, that was one of my questions was, do you just have a pool of those downloadables and offers at the ready, and then depending on what the medium is or the type of talk you're giving, you just align that with what you're offering?
That is a great question. And most people don't ask that. Most people, they might not have a downloadable. So websites are fine. Phone numbers sometimes are fine. I don't like giving out my phone number. Email addresses are fine. Downloadables, I do have multiple downloadables. Start with one that is aligned with your audience. Like I have one that's a journal for women entrepreneurs, right? So I have that, and it's called Remember Your Why. Right? It connects you with your why. That one gets picked up really, really well off of many of the podcasts that I've done, because especially women-oriented podcast, right? So if it's a woman-oriented podcast, I'll use that downloadable and it gets grabbed. But I serve men as well, right? So I can't just have that one. I have to have other ones. And I have probably 7 or 8 major downloadables that I rotate through. Oftentimes people will get one downloadable and then later they'll get a follow-up email saying, you grabbed that one. Would you be interested in this one as well? Like there's one about 10 mistakes that entrepreneurs make. And then after that, they might get one that says 10 networking tips for when you're out in a networking event, right? So they kind of camp onto each other. And I might reverse those. They can complement each other. You can have that as an extra value add. But you can always make up a new one, right? It's basically just a PDF. I got invited to speak once in front of a group of sort of parents. The audience was people who have kids or kids who are going to college and they're getting scholarships, right? So it was all about like how to get scholarships for kids and like what you need to do to prepare for college. And I speak to entrepreneurs and I speak about speaking, right?
Right.
I don't have any, like 10 mistakes you make as an entrepreneur isn't going to like float their boat. Neither is that, like, remember your why, right? That's not going to float their boat either. So I'm like, all right, what are we going to do? So I created a list of 10 things that you probably have already done that count as leadership on your college application.
I love that.
And one of them was public speaking.
There it is. There it is.
So he's gonna sneak it in there, right?
Yeah, she's a little head fake. I love that. That's a great example again of still infusing your expertise, but in a way that's more relatable to the audience. All right.
Yeah. Awesome. Because you have to, the first thing is if you're inviting somebody onto a stage, like you were kind enough to invite me onto your stage, the first thing we want to check is it going to be a benefit for the audience? Is the audience going to get value out of me talking about 4 types of stages, right? Are they going to get value? And if that box gets checked, okay, well then is it a value for the guest? Is it a value, like, will they benefit from getting on the podcast? Yes, it will give me exposure. It will give me an opportunity to speak to a wider audience. That's a benefit for me. And will it benefit you? And hopefully it does benefit you in that you have another expert to be able to say, aha, I am able to bring in experts on different topics. Come watch my show on a regular basis, right? And it gives you authority and credibility as a show host. And it builds relationship between us. And then I can invite you back onto my show, right? So lots of win-win-win. And that's really what you've got to check whenever you pick a stage. Is it going to be a win for everybody?
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to the second type of stage then.
Okay. All right. So speak to sell is one version, but what about paid speaking gigs?
Like, I want to know about that, Kimberly.
See, right? Everybody wants to know about that one. So paid speaking gigs are when you get a check. And I know nobody writes checks anymore, but when you get paid
Yeah.
from PayPal or wherever, Venmo, whatever you get paid, when you get paid for actually stepping onto the stage and pouring your knowledge into an audience. And stepping onto a stage and pouring your knowledge in is because you have a specific set of pieces of information that the audience does need. Now, oftentimes you'll find this at corporate, where a corporate will hire somebody to be an expert speaker in a particular area, right? Like I actually was an expert speaker on total quality management. That dates me because that was a long time ago, but people hired me to come and speak to their audiences about total quality management and what it meant and how to implement it and how to actually get it to work in their corporate location, right? And how to make sure that it wasn't just a banner and a slogan, oh, we do total quality management, but it actually worked, right? So they would come and hire me to come speak on that. I was an expert in that particular area. One of my business partners is, we were just speaking about COVID. She is a travel agent, and she successfully traveled 1,000 people during COVID safely with COVID regulations. So she teaches the travel related world, how to travel people safely during COVID. And people hire her, hotels hire her to come and speak at different locations to talk to them about how to safely make people comfortable during COVID and to be COVID compliant. So you may have a special set of skills where you can come and pour into an audience and just share your knowledge, and they will pay you to come do that. Also, paid speaking gigs. If you've ever been a teacher, guess what? That's actually a paid speaking gig. You're paid to stand on a stage and talk to a bunch of fourth graders and tell them stuff. Right? Well, that is a paid speaking gig, right? You're not going to speak to sell. You're not going to upsell them to anything, right? Although maybe summer vacation.
That would be funny, though.
But that is a money-making opportunity, and you're getting paid to speak. So there's a variety of different paid speaking gigs. But honestly, you can actually make money from that as well. There are plenty of paid speaking gigs that you can do. And even if you're not, it's generally speaking, I'm a speaker. Generally speaking, you get on a stage and if it's a paid speaking gig, they don't want you to make an offer. They don't want you to pitch their audience, right? But it doesn't mean that you won't be making sales from that. When you stand on a stage like that and they've paid you to speak and you say things like, yes, I have clients that hire me to do this. And one of my clients did this and they had that success out of it. And it gives them ideas of how they could do it. Like for total quality management, right? You could say, okay, well, one of the clients that I was working for was BMW, and BMW implemented X, Y, and Z. And that worked very well for them because blah, 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 right? They got this return or that return, right? And then they know that you're a consultant and you are for hire, right?
Right.
Okay, great. So then
not
later,
outwardly selling something, but
not, and you shouldn't. Yes, one of the key rules for any stage that you get on is you've got to follow the rules of the host, right? One of the things that you and I talked about before we went live is how long do we have, right? Yeah. Going over time is one of the worst things you can do for a show host, right? They want you to be on time. I mean, they care about your message and all, but really they want you to be on time. Yeah. That's the big thing. They also don't want you to sell the crap out of their audience if you're not supposed to. Unless you are, right? There might be an opportunity to do that. But make sure that you're following whatever rules the show host puts out. Primarily, be on time. Show up on time and end on time.
On time. All right. Well, speaking of keeping on time, we got 10 minutes left and 2 stages left. So what's number 3?
So stage number 3 is an authority stage. An authority stage is when you stand on a stage and you're not paid to speak and you're not necessarily making an offer. You probably are not making an offer, but you are getting on the stage, and by standing on the stage, it gives you a natural authority, like as seen on TV. Maybe you were on the Oprah show. Maybe you were you shared a stage with Tony Robbins. Maybe I was on a stage that was for women who mean business, right? That gave me authority. And I actually spoke on that stage. And having that opportunity to get on a stage and rub elbows or have an opportunity to be known as a person who was on that stage can give you authority. The biggest one and the most famous one right now is TED stages.
Yeah, I figured that's what is included in that.
Yeah, so I actually am very proud that I actually did do a TEDx talk just recently. We did it in January. It was COVID, but we did it in front of a live audience, and it was the world's largest ever live stream TEDx ever in the history of the world. Wow. So I'm happy to be part of that. And as a matter of fact, last week, I just got notice that TED picked up my TEDx talk. So I am now officially a TED speaker. So thank you
Congratulations,
so much.
Kimberly. That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you so much. And it is very exciting. So that is a real authority stage. Now, what you do with that and maximizing that is you put it on everything. You put it on your speaker bio. You put it on your LinkedIn profile. You put it on your Facebook page. You announce it as many places as possible. Not only that, you want to get views. You want to get likes. You want to get comments. You want to get people to share that. So that authority spreads, and you can check that box. Like, I am an authority speaker. I've spoken on this particular stage. Now, usually authority stages have some sort of gate that you have to cross through. Maybe it's a stage, it's a panel of doctors. Well, you got to be a doctor in order to get on that panel, right? If it's a panel of 7-figure businesswomen, you have to have a 7-figure business in order to get on that panel, right? That gives you instant authority to be able to be on that authority stage. And maximizing that is just a matter of making sure that you're advertising that everywhere and using that as collateral when you get out there and speak on other stages. So that's stage number 3.
Wow. I mean, a TED Talk is definitely on my goals list.
Let's make it happen. Let's make
we can make it happen. Well, I mean, I know that for, Dr. Brene Brown, who's one of my idols, like, her TED Talk was what sparked everything. So I know having that authority stage can really launch your career and your trajectory. So that is awesome. I'm definitely going to look up your talk, Kimberly, for sure.
Thank you. Awesome. So yeah, that's stage number 3. And I love that you mentioned Brene Brown. I adore her. And she's the reason that I wanted to do a TED Talk too. When I got the opportunity to do it, I was like, yep, sign me up. That is definitely on my bucket list, right?
Yeah.
And the idea that I would eventually do a TED Talk was really, that was like the dream of the dream. And the fact that I'm on TED's website right now, I must say that's a little bit of a feather in my cap. I'm very pleased to have.
Well, now you got it. What's next? Now that you checked off TED, now I got to go to the next level, right?
Oh, there's always another level. A good friend of mine just said that to me once, and I was like, "Yep, actually, that's true." Because this is once you cross through that gate, you're like, "Hey, look, another gate."
Well, I'm excited to see when you hit that next one. So, what is the last and final 4th stage?
So the 4th and final stage is a stage that everybody needs at every stage. And it's actually a rehearsal stage. So rehearsal stages are great opportunities to be able to watch your audience and get feedback from people that can give you feedback on your talk. So a practice stage is, it can be really any stage, although I wouldn't recommend you use your TEDx stage as your practice stage. But there always is another level, right? There might be another TED Talk that I do that I learned from my first TEDx Talk, and I will do probably another TEDx Talk at some point in the future, hopefully a TED Talk. And that what I learned from that last stage will be implemented on what I'm doing on my next one, right? So great opportunity to learn, although all stages should be like considered rehearsal stages. Now, whenever you get on a rehearsal stage, that could be a podcast that you're doing that's just with a friend, and you're just practicing out a new talk, right? The first time I did the 4 stages talk, I was making it up as I went along. I was like, I think we're going to talk about 4 types of stages. And then the more I did it, the more I resonated with it, and the more I understood it, the more people nodded back at me and they were like, well, I don't understand. How do we maximize that stage? Oh, that's really good. Let's talk about the 4 types of stages and how to maximize each one, like what to do on each one to make have the maximum effect. Yeah. So it's changed over time. So every talk that you do, it can improve and morph the next talk. As a matter of fact, I shared with my audience that I have done talks on over 5,000 stages.
Wow.
And my best talk ever is my next one. Right?
Oh, I love that.
Because you can always get better. You can always get better. You can always do something different. You can always add to it. Sometimes, like I'll tell a joke and people are like, I didn't get it. Like, I don't understand what it means. And I'm like, okay, well, I talk fast. I said it too quickly or whatever. So sometimes that happens. And then you tell it a different way. You pause in a different place, or you amplify in a different place, or you credit a different person, or you bring in new studies, or you add a 5th stage. Maybe next time I give this talk, it'll be the 5 stages. I don't know.
I was surprised with the rehearsal one, but I mean, goodness, that's so important, especially I have a theater background. Yeah, you need that
Yes,
rehearsal, right?
exactly. I don't talk to many people that have theater backgrounds, but that's where you get it from, right? Is the
Yeah.
theater background and being able to get feedback. Now, what happens in theater is you actually perform in front of your director, and your director gives you feedback, right?
Right.
And they're like, actually, you need to do this. You need to cross on this stage. You need to make your emotions bigger. You need to pronounce things better. You need to deliver that line differently. And that is a very specific direction from a director. However, you can get from a podcast. You can just look at the comment sections and get feedback from them. On this show, I'm looking at you to determine whether or not the stuff that I'm saying is landing properly, right?
Right.
Is it really a good idea to be talking about this? Like one of the things that I noticed right away is if I move my glasses, it'll like reflect the window because I travel full time and I'm always having trouble with lighting, right? So the next time I do it, maybe I won't wear my glasses, right? And that's not a bad thing. It's just a change that I would make and a really good opportunity to slightly adjust, right? So every time you do a talk, it can be a bit of a rehearsal. I would encourage you to ask some friends of yours to give you feedback on your talk, right? They can give you feedback and you can get friends in different categories to give you feedback in different ways. Like your best friend from college can give you feedback on that dress makes you look fat, right? That's totally fine feedback.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
my outfit on my TEDx stage was horrible. I will never wear that outfit again. It was
Oh
just terrible. But that's
no.
okay. I was comfortable in it, right? Like if you're comfortable in it and the other ones, like they look better on me, but I was like, oh, I'm already nervous. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So like they can give you feedback on that. Somebody in your the area that you serve can give you feedback on what's good for their audience, right? And they can say, Kimberly, that just didn't quite resonate with my audience. They're not at that level yet, and they don't even know what a TEDx stage is or whatever it is. So you
Yeah.
get feedback as you go from everything. If you plant somebody in the audience and you have them give you specific feedback, tell them what you're looking for feedback on. Am I speaking too quickly? That's all I need to know in this one. Because I'm working on that, right? Or am I hitting the wrong words? Or did my close and call to action go well? By the
Mm-hmm.
way, on all the stages, including your rehearsal stages, you should have a call to action. What's a call to action? It doesn't necessarily mean a sale. It's not like, hey, buy my stuff. It could be. It could be, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily that. At the end of every talk, I want you to think before you get on the stage, what do I want my audience to feel? How do I want them to feel at the end of this talk? Do I want them to feel hopeful? Do I want them to feel excited? Do I want them to feel pissed off about something and aggravated and calling their senator about it? Do I want them to be, do I want them to be engaged? What do I want them to feel? And then the second thing I want them to know is what do I want them to do? What action do I want them to take after doing this, right? Is it call their senator? Is it go to my website? Is it grab my downloadable? What is it that I want them to do? So no matter what of the 4 stages you're going to do, you are going to have a call to action at every one. Even the paid speaking gigs where you're not allowed to make an offer. When I did talks on total quality management, I wanted them to change their behavior. Right? I didn't want them to necessarily hire me. I wanted them to change their behavior at work. So everything that you do, you're asking for some sort of action to be taken. Otherwise, it's just a merry-go-round, right?
Well, speaking of folks taking action, where can people find you now that we've learned all these tips? What if they want to follow up with you about a certain stage or want to know more about the work that you do or want to have you on their stage? Where can people find you?
Funny you should ask because I have a call to action. So we actually do have the Speakers Playhouse. We would love for you to come play with us at Speakers Playhouse, where Dr. Rowena met us, right? Speakers Playhouse is a free thing that you can come join. It's every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. PST to noon. It's the best 90 minutes of your week or your money back. And we would love to have you come join us. No matter where you are on your speaking journey, the Speakers Playhouse on Thursdays at 10:30 is the place to be.
It really is. It's a fantastic venue to practice, to meet other folks, to get on stages. I know that I've made some connections to speak on different stages and likewise having folks speak on this stage, including you, Kimberly. So definitely, I already been sharing the link around with folks for the Speakers Playhouse because I know I've joined it. I've enjoyed
Good.
it as I mentioned, a performer, as someone wanting to hone in the craft. And I love what that takeaway was that your best speech is the next one. So
Yeah.
always improving is key. Well, we're at 6:30. Are there any final thoughts that you may have for anyone watching this? I really appreciate you coming and telling us this amazing value add of getting out there and speaking.
Yeah. So I believe that if we need you. We need you to give your message out there. You were brought here to this planet for a reason. You have a message to give. It's important that you give it. We want you, and we want you imperfect. And we want you as you are, and you're the only one who can give that message. I believe that if you are not being seen, you're being overlooked. If you're not being heard, your message is not getting out there. And if you're not clear on your message, it's not going to have the contribution you want it to make before you leave this planet. So get on stage, get seen, and stop being overlooked.
Ooh, I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kimberly. And thank you all who are watching this. Next week, I'm going to do a solo episode and talk about magical, authentic networking,
Love
which is
it.
what brought us on this stage. So stay tuned. And until then, have a great rest of the week and take care of each other. And I'll see you later. Bye, everyone.
Cheers.